Welcome, beautiful women. I'm Tori. If we haven't met yet, I'm a women's integrative nutrition and health coach. I'm also a functional weight loss specialist. On to today's topic, how to reduce inflammation after 40. What actually works? And I want to start with something that I hear from women in my community all the time. They've cleaned up their diet. They cut out sugar and gluten and processed food. Maybe they've added in some turmeric and some omega-3s, some fish oil, and they started an anti-inflammatory protocol, and things got a little bit better, and then it just plateaued, right? They stopped making progress. And the belly is still there, and their joints are still aching, and lots of fatigue no matter what they do. Still some brain fog, rolling around in the mid-afternoon, right? Does that sound familiar? Let me know. So here's what happens, and this is what most people are talking about. Sorry, it's not what people are talking about when they talk about inflammation. Most of the conversation about inflammation just stops at the surface. That's good to know, Francine. Yeah, hopefully this will help you too. So most of the conversation around inflammation is just like what to eat and what to avoid. And I've thought about this for a long time. You know what I reckon that's like? It's a bit like having a smoke detector and unplugging the smoke detector and then saying, we're still safe from fires. But you're not, right? Because the alarm wasn't the problem. The alarm going off, right, wasn't the problem. The noise wasn't the problem. There's still something burning. Until you actually get to the bottom of what's burning, you're just managing smoke. You're just managing noise. You're not actually managing the fire itself. Today, I want to show you what's actually feeding the chronic inflammation in women over the age of 40 and why perimenopause is amplified it a bit. And I want to go through the hierarchy that will actually bring your body back to calm for good. All right, so let's go. So, number one is chronic inflammation over the age of 40 is different from what you've been told. Let's start with reframing this a little bit, because without this, none of the rest of today is going to make sense. Here's what you've been told. You have inflammation. Try an anti-inflammatory diet, or take these supplements, or avoid these foods. As if inflammation is just this thing that just happened to you. But here's what's actually true. Inflammation isn't a diagnosis. It's a bodily response. Your immune system is releasing inflammatory signals for a reason, because it perceives a threat. Maybe toxins, maybe damaged tissue, maybe there's a pathogen. Maybe your blood sugar's unstable. Maybe you have chronic stress in your life. It doesn't just spontaneously happen to someone. So think of it this way. If your smoke alarm's going off in your house at 3 a.m., you're not going to just unplug it and go, cool, now I don't have the noise anymore, and go back to sleep. That would be ridiculous. You're going to look around and try to find out what's burning. If the smoke alarm is going off, it's going off for a reason. So chronic low-grade inflammation in your body is the alarm. Belly fat that you can't get rid of, that's an alarm going off. Your joints aching, that's an alarm going off. And the brain fog and the exhaustion and your irritable mood, those are all alarms going off. Alarm, alarm, alarm. Woo, woo, flagging a threat and asking you to pay attention, right? And here's the piece that hopefully empowers you around this is If inflammation is a response to something, then that something can be found. And if it can be found, it can be addressed. So living with inflammation is not a life sentence. Having inflammation is information. Inflammation is information. And here's what this means for every protocol you've done before that only half worked, every diet you did or every supplement you took that only half worked. All it did was unplug the smoke detector for a little while. It just addressed the noise, but not the actual what was burning. So things felt a little bit better for a little while, but then they got worse again. Let's stop that today. Hey, Fidel, so good to have you on the call today. I want you to type signal for me. Big capital letters, signal. If you feel like you've been chasing symptoms and just trying to stop symptoms without actually giving consideration to the root cause. If that's you, I see you. That's why we're here talking about this today. Okay, so signal, big capital letters. So number 2, how perimenopause is exposing hidden inflammation that you didn't know was there. Okay, this one stops women in their tracks because it reframes this whole perimenopause experience that we're all having. Here's what most women believe. Ever since perimenopause started, my body's just been so inflamed. I was fine before, and now everything is falling apart. That hormonal shift I went through, it broke things in my body. So this is what I hear from women every single week, every single day. And I understand completely why it feels that way. But what is actually happening is estrogen has powerful anti-inflammatory properties. Estrogen is modulating an immune response, and estrogen is protecting the lining of your gut. And estrogen is also helping to regulate your blood sugar, and estrogen is helping to calm your stress response, and so is progesterone. And estrogen and progesterone too really buffers quite a lot of dysfunction for a long time. Hi, Jenny, welcome. And when estrogen begins to decline in perimenopause, then the buffer is starting to go away. And everything that was simmering beneath the surface, like chronic low-grade inflammation that was already there, now you feel it. So it feels amplified. But here's the crucial distinction. Perimenopause didn't create the inflammation. It just removed the buffer. It just removed the protection you had. It removed what was masking it. And this is why 2 women can go through the exact same hormonal transition and have completely different experiences of it. A woman with quite strong foundations, maybe she's got reasonable gut health and decent blood sugar regulation and stress resilience. She might move through perimenopause with less inflammation. And then we might have a woman who has unaddressed dysfunction. And perimenopause is just going to turn the volume up on all of that. But here's why this is good news. You are not at the mercy of a hormonal transition. Your body's showing you exactly what's been quietly going on underneath and pointing you to exactly where you need to intervene and support yourself. So perimenopause isn't the fire. It's just like it just turned the lights on in the room so you could see what was there. Hey, Rachel, good to have you here. And now finally with the lights on, you get to see what's there. And women who come to work with me and we actually get to the source of the inflammation, then they're not just managing perimenopause anymore. They come out the other side feeling better than they did in their 30s. I watch it happen all the time. So I want you to type lights, LIGHTS, in big capital letters if perimenopause has revealed something that your body might have been carrying all along. So it's not a disaster. It's not the end of the road. It's not all decline from here. This is the beginning of understanding what's really going on with your body, which is wonderful. All right, number 3 is why your gut is the most overlooked driver of a body that won't calm down in terms of inflammation. All right. If I could get every one of you guys who's watching this right now to understand just one thing, it would be this. You can eat the most pristine anti-inflammatory diet in the world and still not move the needle on inflammation if there are parts of this that aren't addressed. Because a lot of women are coming to me and they've removed gluten and they removed dairy and they've added in beautiful probiotic foods, kefir, kombucha. They're taking probiotics, you know, they're taking all the right supplements, they're eating for inflammation, they get a little bit of improvement, but not the whole way. And so anti-inflammatory protocols are skipping a really important piece, a lot of really important pieces, but here's one of them. It's ignoring the integrity of the gut wall itself. And we need to understand the physiology of our gut wall. The lining of your small intestine is one cell thick. That's how thick that layer is, one cell. One single layer of cells between your gut's contents and your bloodstream. And when that lining, that one cell thick lining of your small intestine becomes more permeable than it's supposed to be, we call it enhanced intestinal permeability, then little bacterial fragments can escape called endotoxins. Little tiny particles of food can escape through the gaps. Your immune system sees those things in the bloodstream and treats them as an attack on your body, and it fires an inflammatory response every single time. And that is systemic inflammation. Systemic is all over the body. So now it's not localized to your gut. Now it's showing up as joint pain, as skin flares, as problems in the tissues, as brain fog, as mood dysregulation, fatigue. It's showing up as fat storage because your immune system is constantly running in this low-grade state of activation. So what kinds of things are going to compromise the gut wall? Well, chronic stress, an imbalance in gut bacteria, too many of this species, not enough of this species, dysregulated blood sugar is going to degrade that beautiful one cell thick lining. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, the anti-inflammatory medications that so many women take for joint pain is the very thing that's causing the joint pain. Crappy sleep is causing inflammation. Alcohol is also compromising the lining of the gut too. Not all is lost though, because that one cell thick lining of your gut is constantly renewing and repairing itself if the environment is right. Given the right environment, it will heal. And when it does, the inflammatory cascade will start to quieten down. Not because you took something for inflammation as a once-off, or not because you added in a new supplement, but because you started to remove one of the sources of the fire. This is why the gut work piece isn't optional. This is an absolute requirement. And it's what changes everything for women who are trying to overcome inflammation over the age of 40. All right, number 4. This is the blood sugar and insulin connection that most women miss. And this one's really important. And once you see it and understand it, you can't unsee it. Here's what you've probably understood before, that blood sugar is just a problem for people who have diabetes. And you got tested, someone checked your fasting blood sugars, and so you don't really need to worry about this anymore. Just cut back on sugar a little bit, maybe. And it's not true. because insulin resistance is rife in women over the age of 40. And here's what's actually happening every time you have unstable blood sugars and you get an insulin spike, a blood sugar spike. Your body releases insulin so that you don't have lots of glucose racing around your bloodstream, because that's not safe for you. That's inflammatory. But the spike itself of the rise and the crash triggers an inflammatory response. And if that's happening 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, that's multiple rounds of inflammation firing through your body every single day. But it doesn't stop there, because chronically elevated insulin, which your body is doing on purpose in an attempt to manage your blood sugar, all on its own, chronically elevated insulin is independently pro-inflammatory, all on its own, even if we didn't have any other factors. And chronically elevated insulin, which your body's doing to try and protect you from the sugars in your blood, which, by the way, might not have come from your diet, but from your chronic stress or from a simmering infection, that is driving fat storage, especially around the abdomen. And belly fat, centrally stored fat, is not just a passive storage site. It's that tissue that fat that's sitting around the middle is metabolically active tissue. It's actually producing its own inflammatory signals. It's creating inflammatory cytokines and sending them out into your body. It's producing its own inflammatory signals. This is driving even more insulin resistance, which is driving even more fat storage, which drives even more inflammation. Belly fat is a root cause of inflammation. And now we're in a cycle that feeds itself. And in perimenopause, that decline in estrogen that we're all going through is affecting our insulin sensitivity. Blood sugar sensitivity becomes more difficult. Blood sugar spikes can be more frequent. They can be more pronounced for women over 40. And with that, more inflammation, more belly fat that won't shift. Yes, Jenny, in a way, it's looking at a 3-month average is the answer to that question. So it's not a bad indicator, HbA1c. So women who stabilize their blood sugar by eating protein at every meal and plenty of fiber in the diet, and they're consistent with their meal intake and they have strategic movement in their life, they're going to notice a difference in their energy and their mood and their inflammation and their belly fat, usually within a few weeks. It's not the full picture, but I tell you what, it will help. So I want you guys to type cycle now if you're starting to see a connection between your blood sugar, maybe chronically elevated insulin as a result of spiking blood sugars, and inflammation. Is this new information for you? Type cycle. If you can see now that your dysregulated blood sugar might have led you to be inflamed. This is not a permanent cycle. We can fix this, and just knowing it exists is the first step to stopping it. Yes, fantastic. All right, number 5 that I want to share with you today. Why anti-inflammatory diets stall. What's missing? And here's the question that I know a lot of you guys ask, which is, I've already tried an anti-inflammatory approach. Why didn't it work? And the answer is, it wasn't wrong. It was just incomplete. And most anti-inflammatory protocols, they remove the obvious triggers. We all know about those: gluten and sugar and industrialized seed oils and alcohol, and that's great. And they add in some obvious anti-inflammatory foods like your oily fish and your omega-3 rich seafoods and your leafy greens and your berries and your olive oil. And sometimes they bring in some supplements too, maybe some omega-3 support, some turmeric, some magnesium, and you get a little bit of results. You get some real results for a little while, and then it stalls. Because food food changes on their own can't heal the gut wall. Food changes on their own. I'm not taking care of the full picture. This is not the holistic approach because this is not all a food problem. Anti-inflammatory eating doesn't override chronically elevated cortisol because of your stress. Anti-inflammatory eating isn't going to outrun your blood sugar spiking 4 times a day because of your mental emotional stress. Turmeric isn't going to neutralize an immune system that's on fire because it's responding to toxins in your bloodstream every single day. So again, the diet addresses a little piece of it, but it's not addressing all of the root causes, and it's not addressing all of the effects. We're still missing some pieces here. So let me share with you. This is number 5. The hierarchy that I believe is going to reduce inflammation after the age of 40 and then keep it calm. Okay? So number 1 is remove all triggers first. Remove the blood sugar spikes. Remove the gut irritants and the ultra-processed foods. Remove the alcohol. Remove the chronic crappy sleep. Remove the unrelenting stress. Just to name a few. Because you can't put the fire out if you're still fueling the fire with things. And number 2 is heal the gut. So you've got to restore the microbial diversity there. You've got to support the mucosal lining. You have to address the enhanced intestinal permeability that we've been talking about. Most protocols, most anti-inflammatory protocols don't go there. They don't even reach it or scrape the surface on that stuff. But that's the one that will change things for you. And number 3, level number 3 of this is you've got to address nervous system and sleep, because chronically elevated cortisol from the stress that you create in your own life, from the choices you make day in, day out, is one of the most potent pro-inflammatory drivers in the body. Full stop. And if your sleep is not good, if you don't sleep, you don't heal. Sleep is when your body does a big inflammatory cleanup. So if you're not getting your sleep right, then nothing's going to function the way that it should. And number 4 is targeted supplementation, which is going to be a little individual. But let me speak broadly. The right forms of magnesium, the right dose, the right strength at the right times for you. Vitamin D levels adequate. Curcumin, the active component of turmeric, can be very useful. Stacked in the right way and used strategically, they can be very powerful, but they are not, and I see this all the time, they're not the full solution. And I'm speaking to those beautiful women, those of you who go out and take an omega-3 or take a curcumin supplement and think that that's job done. You'll be managing inflammation for the rest of your life. What I mean is managing it poorly. So you don't want to be doing that. Here's what I want to leave you guys with today. Inflammation is not the problem. Inflammation is the signal. Inflammation's been trying to get your attention for a long time, and it has to get louder to do so. And how it's been trying to get your attention is the belly fat, the joints, the exhaustion, the brain fog, the fatigue. And they're not just these terrible things that are happening to you. This is your body doing its job and communicating with you precisely in the only way it knows how. Something is feeding that inflammation, and it's time to find out what it is and go to the actual source, which is looking at gut integrity, looking at blood sugar regulation, looking at stress physiology in the right order as a connected system. And then the alarm will quieten down, not because When the smoke alarm stops going off this time, it won't be because you just unplugged it and went back to sleep. It'll be because you actually took care of the source of the fire. You actually dealt with what was burning. And this is exactly what we do in Radiant Health Reset. This is exactly what I do in my work with my clients, especially my one-on-one clients. Radiant Health Reset is my signature program where we systematically work our way through root causes, gut health, blood sugar, hormones, stress, nutrition, nutrient gaps in a structured sequence. Because our body is a very connected system and it needs a structured sequence. Radiant Health Reset is not open right now, but I will have an opening a little bit later this month. This program was built for women just like you who are trying to get to the bottom of their problems and they want to do it in a supportive environment. It's absolutely extraordinary, and we've had so many women overcome inflammation, pain, brain fog, perimenopause symptoms through working through their inflammation. So, if you are interested in being part of the next intake of Radiant Health Reset, I want you to comment Radiant in big capital letters, and I'll have a member of my team reach out to you with some more information. Meanwhile, I also want to let you know again about my perimenopause challenge that starts on Monday. We are getting geared up, ready to go here at Joya head office for Monday's perimenopause challenge. It's free. It goes for 5 days. I've never run a challenge like this one before. I'm going to be giving away so much free information. And if you want to be part of the perimenopause challenge, which starts this Monday, you need to comment challenge in big capital letters. And one of my team will reach out to you with a link with some more information. Okay, I would absolutely love to have you there. We will be deep diving into a lot of things I've talked about today. But the point of the perimenopause challenge is to give you the tools to overcome the perimenopause symptoms you're currently living with. All right, that's all from me today. I so appreciate you joining me, whether you came live, whether you watched the replay. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, and I'll see you next week. Bye now.